Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Auteur Club Live, our special Auteur Club Live. We are streaming in the Auteur Club, but also on Facebook and YouTube. And I want to welcome you. My name is Angela Green. For those of you who do not know, I'm Executive Director of On Location Memphis, and I'm also uh, the creator of the Auteur Club. And we just want to welcome you to our live stream tonight. We have a very special guest with us this evening. This gentleman I've been knowing for several years now. His name is Andy Hill, and he's been a great supporter of On Location Memphis, even though he's never lived in Memphis, Tennessee. And so I'm going to just give you a little information about him just to start us off before I bring him on to the virtual stage. And so his bio kind of starts in the early 80s, late 80s, early 90s. He served as vice president of music production for Walt Disney, overseeing the music production for pictures such as The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Sister Act, as others. He worked with composers and songwriters such as Howard Ashman and Hans Zimmer. He also started his own company, Andy Hill Film and Music, and he supervised projects such as Message in a Bottle, Ed Wood, James and the Giant Peach, Happy Feet. He also won a Grammy for producing the best musical album for children for Elmo and Grouchland. So in 2003, he started doing scoring workshops, and he did one as an extension of Columbia College in Chicago, which that led to their first MFA program, music composition for the screen. Um, Now, it's kind of interesting because in 2011 he was engaged by another university to create their scoring for film and TV and video games. That's for Berkeley College of Music in Valencia, Spain. And then that takes us to around 2018. So 2018 is when I actually met Andy Hill. Around that time, I was formulating the Memphis Music Bank, and we were putting together our first music placement symposium. And I was working with a good friend, Nan Pitts out of Nashville, the Tennessee Women in Film and Media, and she referred Andy to our panel. And I had not necessarily thought about music scoring because I was kind of focused on placements, but he graciously agreed. He volunteered, came, he did a presentation on music scoring. And like I said, this was back in 2018. So you see how long ago this relationship goes, but this was our flyer from 2018. And I was so taken with the idea of music scoring and thinking that that was something very important for the music producers in Memphis to pick up that skill. And so after that, I asked him, I said, well, Andy, would you mind coming back and doing a master class on music scoring? And again, he said yes. He graciously agreed. And so with the help of Rhodes College, we actually brought him back in 2019, and he did a 2-day music scoring masterclass. And it was about, I think, 4 or 6 students who were in that class. I know the majority of them have gone on to do some scoring with independent film projects through the Memphis Music Bank. So we're very appreciative of that. But that was the same year that his skills actually took him from the United States to Bulgaria, because yet again he was tapped to stand up another music scoring class, and this was with the I believe it was the Film Scoring Academy of Europe in Sofia, Bulgaria, which that program was very successful. It was recognized as one of the top music schools, scoring schools by the Hollywood Reporter. But of course, we maintained our relationship, and of course, we wanted him back here in the United States. And so um, that's what brings us today, because that prayer to bring him back to the United States actually did come to fruition. and he is back in the United States, and it actually has landed him in Atlanta, Georgia. And so tonight, he is going to come and kind of share with you what it is that he is doing in Atlanta with the Media Design School of Strayer. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to hear from Mr. Andy Hill. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Angela. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us tonight.
And hello, auteurs. I can't see you, but I'm just going to assume there are about 600 of you out there.
Right, exactly.
This whole idea of the filmmaker as the author of the film actually comes from two critics back in the 60s, a French critic, André Bazin, I think, and an American critic named Andrew Sarris.
Mhm.
And they started when they started criticizing film from the perspective of the director actually
Mhm.
being the author or
Mhm.
auteur of the film. And
Mhm.
that whole notion, now when you go to the movies and you see a film by
Mhm.
David Fincher or whoever, that's where that whole
That
idea
come
comes
from.
from. But I thank you for having me. And by the way, Angela has done such great work for artists and musicians in Memphis. I don't live there except in my dreams,
Right.
uh, vicariously, but I'm happy to be back virtually.
Awesome, awesome. And just for you all to know that we did maintain that relationship while you were in Bulgaria, and he actually did a virtual masterclass for us back in 2021. And we have those teachings still in the Auteur Club for new students to partake in. But putting all that aside, I'm very excited to share, or for you to share what it is that you are working on right now. Now we do have the video. Do you want to tee it up, or do you want us to just show the video and then you come behind it?
Let me give a little bit of an introduction so they know what they're looking at. This is the short video with the footage from Rome. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. So there's a story behind everything, and there is behind this one. I had been running the program in Bulgaria for about 6 years, and as Angela mentioned, we got some accolades. I mean, we made some noise, and when you make a good noise, it has a way, particularly these days with social media and with people sharing things that they respond positively to, it gets around, and it got all the way to Hollywood, and people started seeing and hearing the quality of the work that was being done over there. And of course, everybody's initial reaction was, "What, Bulgaria?" Most people have difficulty finding it on a map unless you point them in the right direction. But it's the country just north of Greece and just sort of west of Turkey. So it's right there in the Balkans, in a part of the world that very few people actually ever get to. Most people think of the Balkans, they think of maybe World War I history or something like that. But these are countries that were all, occupied by the Soviet Union during that period. And one by one, they peeled off and eventually became republics. So it's now the Republic of Bulgaria. And why were we there? We were there because they have a tradition in Bulgaria of training musicians at, you know, at world-class level. So they get the same training that a musician at a conservatory in Vienna, for example, would get. And but however, they are much, much less expensive. Bulgaria is a very poor country. It's one of the poorest countries in Europe. It's still sort of climbing out of that economic hole that it was. I wouldn't say it dug itself into. It was dug into through all those years of occupation. But it hasn't affected the musicians or their spirit. So we went over there because it seemed to us that something that we could do that nobody else was doing was to give our students the opportunity to hear their music performed by world-class orchestras. And as you all know, and whether you're filmmakers or composers, things may get more and more electronic. They may get more and more influenced by generative AI. There may be more and more things that you can do essentially with nothing more than a laptop computer. But for the audience, the sound of music in the movies is orchestral. And you can see that as recently as the last Academy Awards, where Ludwig Göransson, won the Oscar for the second time for Sinners, with a score that, although it had a lot of indigenous folk and blues elements and instrumentation in it, it was fundamentally an orchestral score. That's what people expect to hear. That's what lifts them out of their ordinary day-to-day life and puts them in a fully three-dimensional world. There's a book out there that I occasionally teach with called Music, the Soul of Cinema. And I really do believe that in many ways, if it's used properly, that the right music score can basically lend a soul, even to movies that are maybe a little bit lacking in one. It makes you feel more strongly for the characters. It makes you feel more strongly for the world of the film. So anyhow, I've been over there doing this and taking my students into the studio every couple of weeks for quite a while. And word got through to a company in the United States that is in the business basically of, they scout for promising little schools here and there all over the world, that basically what they do is they acquire them and then they build them, they scale them. So what they wanted to do with our school basically was pick it up and then open up branches in other cities in other parts of the world, because they believed that our teaching method was effective. They heard the music and they saw what it was doing for the students. Actually didn't take the CEO very long. He flew over on a private plane, got off at like 11 o'clock in the morning, came to my classroom, spent an hour in there, and then decided he was going to buy the school. And my reaction actually was great, because we'd been running on a bootstrap for many, many years, doing great work on behalf of our students, but not having a whole lot to show for it. And we didn't have the capital to actually expand the school to other cities, or to other what in business they call verticals. We wanted to offer non-degree programs. We wanted to offer one-off courses for people who basically just wanted to upskill in a particular area. But you can't do that if you don't have capital. So I welcomed these guys. And about 2 months after they announced their decision to buy us, they decided, no, maybe not. I think they had their lawyers investigate the complexities of the Bulgarian financial system and legal and licensing system, and decided, they said to me, it would take us 18 months to 2 years, basically, to get this thing up and running again here in Bulgaria. So why don't you just come back to the States and do there what you've done here? And that was, I will tell you something. One of the possibilities they offered me was Memphis,
Hmm.
and that was one of the things that got me jazzed about the offers. I thought, well, maybe I'm finally going to get to Memphis after all these years of wishing. Ultimately, they chose Atlanta because they'd made some important, I built some important relationships, I think, with the city government, the state government. They had already started work on a brick and mortar facility. So
Hmm.
we're we're in Atlanta, but they basically said to me, and these are the kind of instructions that you want to get, and at the same time they terrify you. He said, "Build me the finest film scoring program in the world."
Wow.
And these are people with ambition, and their other properties, their other school. You'd never guess that they would be interested in this because they're all about business and management, accountancy, a little bit of coding. They have a nursing program. They're really oriented towards helping people who've been out of the workforce for a while get back into it with a new set of skills. But the guy who runs the company is a former Disney executive, and he probably got a little bit of a taste of that world when he was doing that. So he's given us tremendous support, and I'll tell you two more things, and then let Angela come at me with some questions. The film that you're going to see resulted from the fact that after they got me over to the States and I was in Atlanta and I saw how much work we had to do, and what a heavy lift it was going to be to break a completely unknown program in a very competitive market. And I said to the boss, you need to let me create some assets for you, to show people what they're in for, what they can expect if they come to school here. And he said, well, what do you need to do? You need to, hire a couple, famous people and interview them. Well, no, we're going to need to make some music to show prospective students what their experience can be like. Well, where do you want to do that? You want to do it in Atlanta? Well, we want to be an international program. So I think we need to do it internationally. We don't want to suggest right from the get-go that we're just, we built this thing just for Americans. So I had developed a relationship with a very famous studio in Rome, which is associated with a guy whose music you might have heard, Ennio Morricone. If you've ever seen a spaghetti western like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, you know Ennio Morricone's music. And I said, let me take 5 composers over there. I will give them a writing assignment. I'll give each of them the same writing assignment. It'll be a little bit of a competition. And we'll ask them to write an anthem for a new era. And we'll ask them to write based on our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations for what this program could be. That we are going to create a backbench of talent for the industry. We're going to try and develop the next important generation of composers for the screen. And by the screen, of course, I mean movies, I mean TV, I mean video games. And basically, he said, go for it. And we set up the session in Rome. We took open submissions, basically, so that we would have, so that it would be a little bit of a competition. So you're going to see some folks. We got a lot of Europeans to sign up for this thing because word got out there, and that's mostly what you're going to see in this video. But the tagline of this whole thing is, "This could be you. This could be your experience." And after you look at the film, I'll tell you why I believe in that. I'll tell you about the scholarship program, and then we can take some questions.
All right, sounds like a plan. Here we go.
Great.
Ooh,
Did you lose your audio?
yeah, let me see here. Let me start it over here.
Yeah, you had it at the top.
Okay, let me see. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, a creative spark can really come from anything.
Birds chirping, wind in leaves of the trees.
Memories from my past, architecture, art, different cultures.
Everybody brings their background into the music that they write.
I feel those emotions within myself. Close my eyes. That's when I start to compose.
You want me to give this a shot, Angela, and see if I can share it from this end?
right, I do apologize. We had a little technical difficulties there, more than a little. Let
I'm
me
used to that, Angela. And I just put the direct link
right.
to the website in the chat for those who are here and want to look at this without the whenever you stream, there is always a risk,
Always a risk.
particularly when you're combining audio and video. It's only a 3-minute film. I would suggest that you all take a look at it, because what we'll try to do in this 15-month program, and this is a Master of Fine Arts program, so it's considered a terminal degree, the final degree, not terminal in the sense of death, but terminal in the sense that you've sort of reached the peak of what you can achieve academically in this particular field of study. And it'll be 15 intensive months. You'll be writing most of the time. You'll also be learning the set of technical skills that you need in order to function in the media music world these days. You'll be learning about storytelling and drama, how to read a scene properly, how to deal with the director. You'll be learning about business because, like it or not, and I don't like it much, we want to make music, we want to make art, we want to make something beautiful. We don't particularly want to have to worry a whole lot about business, leave that to the business managers. But these days, every composer has to be his or her own business manager. And even if you don't have those natural entrepreneurial skills, you kind of have to develop them. So we'll help you with that in the program. But the most important thing we're going to do is allow you to record your music. And we're going to do it 3 times during that 15 months, basically once every 5 months. Once in Nashville, once will be a remote recording done in Europe with the students actually sitting in Atlanta watching the orchestra perform their music overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final time, we're going to take you all over there to record your music and, if you wish to, conduct it. So I want to tell you, am I allowed to share my screen?
Yes. Go
Angela, do you think they'll let me do that?
Yes, please do.
I'm going to see if I can do that. Let's see. Don't show these chips again. Record. Yeah, you can do that if you want to. Okay, let's see. And entire screen. Let's do that. Let's see if it'll allow me to do this. Okay. Oh, this might turn out to be more difficult. Oh, wait, there we go. Let's see if this will work. It should work. I just want to show you the website so I can tell you about these scholarships. All right.
Let me see.
I don't actually need to record. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to cancel this and go one more time. There we go. There's your film. I don't need to record. Okay. If I can't do this.
Okay.
If I can't do this, I'll just talk through it. But can you see this or no? You can't see what I'm sharing yet, can you?
Let me. What's the link? Yeah, what's the link?
The link, yeah. If you open the website on your end, it's screen scoring, all one word, screen scoring dot mediadesignschool.com. And I'm going to stop my share so you can do that.
Okay.
Now, so what I was saying earlier before we tried to show the film is this, that after we got back from Rome, we knew we had some very, very strong footage and some very strong performances. And so the head of the company said, basically, so you got what you need now, right, Andy? I said, yeah, we're about there, almost there. We might need a little bit more help. Like what kind of help? How about scholarships? Right? And the response to this was something that I had never heard before and probably will not hear again in my professional life. And that is, give them all scholarships. The entire class. I was thinking maybe 2 or 3.
Right.
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 So give them all scholarships. Now, this is a program that has an advertised tuition just under $50,000. 15-month MFA program with major recording sessions. So it's basically $1 million of faith invested in this craft, in this industry, in me, and most of all in the students, in the prospective students.
So how many students are supposed to be in this first cohort?
20.
Wow. Okay.
We have 20 seats. Basically, we're building a facility in Midtown Atlanta in what's known as the Honeywell Building. Beautiful location. And these folks, they've given me almost everything I've asked for. I said, please don't make the students ride an elevator into some corporate office building. So they found me a building where the students can enter right off the street. And you walk into a sort of atrium, 2 stories of windows, natural light coming in. You walk back into the building, and the classroom, they built like a recording studio, and recording studios are constructed sort of a room within a room for acoustic isolation, basically, so that all those low frequency rumbles and so forth aren't disturbing other people in the building. So they built this room like that, and they've installed in it the kind of equipment that I would want in my own studio or my own screening room if I were, Elon Musk.
Right.
If I had the money.
Right.
But it's going to be a wonderful place to work. And the thing is that it's a gamble for sure, because if he made this offer and nobody came.
I'm not sure. Is this me or is this Andy? You back? Okay.
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. It's a bit of a gamble, but I don't think it's really much of a gamble. I think we are going to find 20 young composers who are going to look at this, and I hope they're going to say, something is calling me. I wasn't ready for this. I certainly wasn't ready to uproot and move to Atlanta for 15 months. Maybe some of these people will be working and they'll say, I actually kind of like my job. I'm not sure I want to leave it, but this is what I always wanted to do. This is my dream. And somebody is giving me the opportunity to realize that. I need to come up with the living expenses, but I'd have to do that one way or the other, wherever I am. I have to feed myself, but I'm going to have to do that wherever I am. So I would think, I look at it, Angela, almost like it's a little bit like joining the service, in the sense that you're signing up for a stint. And you're going to learn all kinds of things, and you're going to learn what you're made of and what you're capable of over those 15 months. And you're going to come out of it with something to show, which is all this recorded music you can turn around to the world, to filmmakers, to content creators, to screenwriters, to producers like yourself, Angela, and you can say, I proved it. I knew I had it in me,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't think I'd ever get the chance to show it.
Christy, you're right. This is amazing. So let me ask you this: what is the criteria for someone who is interested in applying?
Okay, so because it is a master's degree and because it's being offered under the umbrella of a registered accredited university, we can only accept students who have a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
I was hoping they might allow me to make some exceptions for somebody who's just extraordinarily talented and maybe never finished school. You know, in the way that you can sometimes bring somebody into an undergrad program with a GED or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to work for this first cohort, certainly not with fully paid tuition.
Okay.
So they're going to want people with a BA or a BS or a BMuse of some kind. Doesn't necessarily have to be a music degree.
Okay.
I've said to them early on, suppose we get somebody who was a chemistry major, but was taking music classes on the side and is maybe even largely self-taught, but plays an instrument beautifully and submits material that sounds, you know, that is indicative of a real talent. Yes, we can accept those people. We're basically asking for our scholarship applicants to have what I'm calling a second year undergraduate level of music theory. Now, if you look at most state colleges and universities, look at the music department, for example, and what you'll see typically is, you know, there'll be a fundamentals of music or a music 101, you know, in the first term of the first year. Then there'll be a sort of theory and harmony one kind of course, maybe in the second term. And then maybe in the first term of the second year, there'll be an ensemble class where you play your instrument with a group of musicians. And then maybe in the fourth term, there'll be a more advanced harmony or harmony and counterpoint class. We're not asking for any more than that, but you'll need to be comfortable reading music. That does not mean reading it at the level of a concert violinist. Those people are amazing. They're human machines. I mean, they can just, they process the notes coming off the page as fast as a computer does, right? You don't have to be able to do that. You just have to be able to, if you're in class and we're discussing, you know, let's say, you know, we're looking at Oppenheimer or something like that. And it's the scene preceding that first atomic blast where the music is building up with all this drama and tension. And I want to be able to show you, not just play it for you, not just for your ears, but I want with your eyes for you to see what the composer did to create that tension, right? So if I say, let's take a look at what the violins are doing, that doesn't mean you have to be able to play that violin part by ear or even at the piano. As long as you can read the notes well enough to sound it out and have a strong sense of what it's doing, that's okay for the beginning. You would be surprised how many very, very famous movie composers started out not being able to read their own music. The reason we have to insist on it in a program like this is we're going to take you into the studio.
Okay.
And people and musicians are going to be playing your music, so they're going to need to read it. And nobody's going to do that for you, right?
Okay.
You have to do it, but over those 15 months, you'll learn an enormous amount. We're going to ask you to submit 3 pieces of music.
Okay.
Two of them can be pieces that you've worked on before, maybe that you created as an undergrad. They don't necessarily have to be classical. This could be a jazz trio. It could be a folk group. As long as your musicality is clear from the track that you choose, I'll be able, and my team will be able to tell. But we are going to ask you to write one piece of music specifically to an assignment.
Okay.
And you're going to get a little fragment of a story. It might be sci-fi, it might be fantasy, it might be drama. And you're going to write us a piece of music roughly 1.5 to 2 minutes long that is descriptive of the text in that story. So in other words, you're going to have, even if you've never written to a story or to picture before, we're going to ask you just to show us a little bit of what you can do when you're given that kind of material to write to. And again, you can write it for any instrumentation that you want to.
Okay.
And that's basically it. We're going to ask for a couple of letters of recommendation from your former professors, teachers, professional colleagues, and we're going to ask you to write 500 words, the usual thing, telling us why you want to be there.
So applications have started coming in. They're open.
That site that you're showing right there, if you hit apply now, it'll take you to a general Strayer University application, which you fill out and submit. That'll ring a bell. Basically, our admissions officers will then know that you're interested in applying, and they will follow up with you and make sure that you understand the rest of the material that needs to be submitted to complete your package. The program launches October 5th, I believe is the date. So we have a little bit of time. You're not expected to come up with all this material like that. You fill out your application and then you go off, and it might take you a week, 10 days to write that piece of music that you're being asked to write. That's okay. Your application you'll be registered, as wanting to apply, and the application will remain live, and then you'll just come back to the admissions officer and let her know when you're ready to upload the rest of your material.
When will decisions be made as far as who has made the cohort?
We'll start making decisions as soon as we have, I would call it a quorum. I would say once we have a dozen we just opened applications last week. Once we have, say, a dozen in the hopper, we will then send those out. The reason we have to wait a little while is because we're using an industry board to help me make these decisions about scholarship awards, and these are busy people. They're working composers. So basically, I need to call them together to review the applications. So we'll probably do them in batches of a dozen or so, Angela. And then each time we come out of one of those batches, we will probably have 1 or 2 scholarship recipients. I don't expect we're not going to wait until the end of the summer to let people know, because people need to make decisions. If they're planning on going back to school in the fall, they need to know they would like to know by midsummer and no later than that where they're going to be, and if they have to make relocation plans. So my goal would be that basically we have our cohort. Let me be a little bit conservative about this. The dream would be that we have 20 students by the 1st of July. If we can do it sooner than that, we will. I would probably not. I would say we'd have to pretty much close up shop by the end of July. But we're going to aim for the 1st.
Okay. So that means application. So as soon as you submit your application, you need to get right on your composing so you can submit your music samples to complete your application so that your application is a part of the batch that goes in for review, correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And we are doing some this is a continuing story, as you can imagine, folks. We're sort of building this plane as we fly it. Fortunately, I've done this a few times before, so
Mhm.
this is not new for me. What is new for me is having an organization providing this much support,
Mm.
and they're going to make this right. I'm sure of that. But it will be. We're going out to the community. We just reached out to Tyler Perry's company
Mhm.
last week, and I'll be meeting with someone representing he's got a group called, I believe it's called Dreamers,
Mhm.
that awards grants for filmmaking for young filmmakers.
Okay.
And our pitch to Tyler is, hey, why not do the same thing for young film composers? And you don't have to come up with the money because
Right.
we've already done that.
Right.
All you have to do is lend us your name.
Mhm.
So hopefully we're going to have a couple of Tyler Perry scholarships. We're going to get a few other people from the industry to lend their names to these scholarships, which means that if you are awarded one of those, you go through the program as
Mhm.
the blank blank scholar.
Scholar. Right.
And that's a heck of a thing to be able to put on your resume.
Awesome. That is awesome. Um, if anyone has any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. Also, if any of you are watching this on the replay, feel free to inbox me in the Auteur Club or through Facebook or YouTube. Any questions, any information you need, so that I can put you in contact, with the school, so that you can get more information or possibly apply. Now, I know we're just getting started, and we're just looking for those applications for those individuals who are willing to come on site to Atlanta and live for that. You say, is it 15, 18 months?
15 months.
15 months. But are there plans to possibly have a online course associated?
There are, and that will, God willing, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that because we're, as I say, we're building this as we go. God willing, it will launch in January. It's going to
Okay.
be a 6-month. It'll be sort of a distilled version
Mm-hmm.
of the MFA,
Okay.
stripped down, more compressed, but it will still offer 2 full live recording sessions. It's
Mm-hmm.
still a portfolio program. We don't want to send anyone away empty-handed. It's great to have skills. It's great to have a degree, but
Mm-hmm.
neither one of those is as great as having a reel and
Mm-hmm.
having material to actually show and to be able to say to a potential client, this is what I can do. They gave me horror and I was able to do it. They gave me a romantic comedy. I was able to do it. You want to be able to show a range of things that all still express your own personal voice.
So even with that smaller online course, 6 months, would you still need to have at least a BA, BS, some sort of undergraduate degree to apply?
As of now, yes, because they're framing it as a graduate certificate program. Now, there
Okay.
is some discussion about this and this is typically like Berkeley does this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you enroll in a Berkeley online program, they will grant you, if you complete the program, a certain number of credits that can be applied to or transferred into a
Mm-hmm.
grad program. And they see that as something that has value in the marketplace. People, and there's a certain amount of prestige associated with taking courses at the graduate level. The other side of that argument is that it does eliminate, people who might be able to bring something extraordinary to a program like that, and who are not necessarily concerned about transferable credits. What does it mean to get 6, 7, 10, 11 graduate credits, and they're telling you you can apply these to a larger, more expensive program? And you may say, well, hey, I'm just here for the skills. I'm here to make music. So we're talking about this, Angela. It's not, the discussion isn't over yet.
So now during the program, I know you're going to have several industry professionals. Maybe kind of speak to that, the type of industry professionals who are going to be kind of coming in and out, working with you as you're training the students over the 15 months.
Yeah, I would say we're just beginning to interview faculty positions. A very important hire is going to be made in the next few weeks, and that'll be our associate professor of orchestration and arrangement. And that will definitely be a pro, probably a veteran, somebody with substantial credits as an orchestrator or arranger. We're going to hire then a course leader for our video game scoring section, and another person to teach the sort of core tech courses. But the real kind of sizzle on the steak is the people who come in for 1 week, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks at a spot. They're going to be a series of visiting composers. Okay. These will be people who bring their experience of the industry directly into the classroom. And to give you an example of who they might be, these names might not mean all that much to most of you, but right now on our advisory board, we have Conrad Pope, who has been the orchestrator for John Williams. That's a name I think you do know. Howard Shore, that's another name I think you probably know. Alexandre Desplat, Junkie XL. He's the orchestrator for those guys. We have Michael Dana, who was the composer, Oscar-winning composer of The Life of Pi. We have a guy I'm very proud of. His name is Jay Weigel. You might not know his name, but he's one of Tyler Perry's go-to composers. He lives in New Orleans. Oh, wow. And he has been working down there for the last 20 odd years and making some extraordinary music. He's one of our senior advisors as well. So these are the kinds of people we intend to bring into the classroom. Most of them will come for short stays, and we'll try and get them in advance of these recording sessions. So basically, as the students are working away, sweating out those pieces, preparing for the recording session, they will have a pro working at their side.
Let me see. I have one. So Christy, she's tagging some individuals who or someone they may know. She said, I hope we can get at least one from Memphis in this cohort. I agree. That's the reason why I definitely wanted to help get the word out so that possibly someone from Memphis will partake.
I would love that. And Angela, I'm going to do something for you, and then I'm afraid I'm going to have to exit stage right because
no problem.
My wife is waiting dinner for me, but I do want to give you this link.
Okay.
Hang on just a second. This is a recommendation form. Okay. So if there is somebody that you would like to recommend for one of these scholarships, let me just make sure I can find it here. All right. I'm gonna do this the easy way. Hang on one second here. Program launch. New Era Scholarship recommendation. Okay, here it is. Okay, so this link will take you to a Google document, which you can use as a kind of nominating form,
Okay.
right?
Mm.
And if it comes from you, Angela, I will know it's legit. I wouldn't necessarily post this on your social media for anybody to fill out, because
Gotcha.
I'll end up having to go through 100 names, you know. But if it's somebody who you feel strongly has the
Awesome.
right stuff for this,
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
we will start looking through our groups and see who's interested in coming to Atlanta and learning under your tutelage. I appreciate you joining me tonight, sharing this opportunity with our community. I wish you well. You know, we are here. We support you just as you've been supporting us all these years. We hope to be able to maybe come to Atlanta and maybe do a tour, you know, of the facility once you all get going. But again, I want to encourage everyone to rewatch this video. Please apply for this program. It's a once in a lifetime. This whole cohort is scholarship. So everyone who is admitted into this first cohort will receive a scholarship. You will only need to cover your room and board, so to speak, in Atlanta for 15 months. So it's a great opportunity. I hope you all take advantage of it. Uh, Again, thank you, Andy, for joining me, and I wish everyone a good night.
It's a great pleasure, Angela. I hope to see you soon in Memphis.
Awesome.
Bye-bye, everybody.